Hey, today is Black Cat Appreciation Day. So I'm wearing a black shirt for Black Cat Appreciation Day. And I have to say, one of my kitties is a black cat. And I love her to death, and she loves me to death too, which is always fun. Anywho, it's Friday. Let's get cooking because the Daily Dope is in the air. Howdy, gang. Yes, I'm Jeff McAleer. I'm back once again as your host here at The Daily Dope, presented by thegaminggang.com, of which I happen to be the Grand Poobah. So welcome aboard. Today is Friday, August 17th, and I've got a fun show ahead of us because I am going to be reviewing Tiny Epic Galaxies from Gamelyn Games. I have been talking about this for about a week and a half. I have really been looking forward to showing you how to play as well as reviewing Tiny Epic Galaxies. But I do have some news as well I'm going to jump into in just a bit. Did open the show by saying today is Black Cat Appreciation Day. And yes, my cat Smokey is a black cat. And interestingly enough, when I adopted her from the shelter as just a wee little kitten about 6 years ago when I lived out in Mesa, Arizona, one of the reasons why I adopted her, outside of her just being a cool cat, when I was sitting there checking out some of the cats, because usually you go to a shelter when you're going to adopt a pet, and they have these little side rooms that you sit in, and they bring in the various different pets for you to kind of get to know. And there was one kitten there that was just a ball of energy, and she was just jumping. I think it was a he, actually, jumping all over the place. And he was such a sweet cat. But I thought, my gosh, this cat has so much energy, it's going to tear my apartment apart. Because the reason why I was going to adopt a cat was because I already had one cat, and I was going to be spending some time on the road. Not long periods, but 3 days at a shot. And even though my mom lived out in Arizona and still does live out in Arizona and would stop in and, check on Bandita, was my other cat, and see, make sure everything was okay, Bandita was probably pretty lonely. So I thought, hey, I'm going to get a second cat. Cats are very low maintenance if you don't have a cat. And I've been lucky. Most of my cats have never acted like cats. They're usually like dogs. They're attached to my hip, which is cool. I like that. But anyway, so I ended up saying, well, okay, this one kitten was just crazy. I was like, no, I can't have that cat kind of unattended in my apartment. So they bring in Smokey. Well, that wasn't her name at the time. And very sweet. Had some, a little giddy up and go to her, but she wasn't insane. And while I was talking to the young woman who was assisting me at the shelter, she mentioned that people don't like to adopt black cats. And I thought, seriously, this is the 21st century here, people. And she said, no, that many people would not adopt black cats. And I thought, well, that is absolutely asinine. I am taking this little kitten home, and Smokey has been part of my family ever since. So yay, black cats, hooray! All right, so do want to mention that this is a live stream. If you are watching live, there is chat available through YouTube. If you have a question about Tiny Epic Galaxies, just want to say hello, have a comment, anything like that, feel free, chime in. There is no chat on screen. That's how I keep some oddballs at bay. But I do pay attention to the chat. So even if you just want to say hello, feel free, chime in, and I will respond. So let's get on to the news, because there is a bit of news today. Though I have to admit, it's kind of heavily favoring role-playing games today, which is cool. I love RPGs, don't get me wrong. But I could have used some of this news yesterday. Anyway, first off, Wizards of the Coast is going to be releasing a special starter set to introduce Magic the Gathering Magic the Gathering, not the Gathering, Jeff, to new players, and I've got the dope. Coming from Wizards of the Coast this October will be a 2-player starter set that could very well become the gold standard for collectible card game introductory play. Not only does it have everything you need to learn how to play, but it has incredible value far beyond its initial use. I'm not sure what the incredible value might be, but let's keep talking about the news release. Probably the most important feature of this kit is that the decks will be ready to play out of the box, meaning that they're not meant to be shuffled. The card on the top of each deck will walk players through starting the game with predetermined steps matching the order that the decks come in. After the tutorial is complete, of course, players will be able to shuffle their decks and learn why every game of Magic the Gathering is different. Since it will be released after Guilds of Ravnica, the kit will contain a number of cards from that set. Although I believe it's only 2 and 3 in the 2 decks, so I believe there's 5 Ravnica cards in it. Each set will contain 2 60-card standard legal decks, 2 quick start guides, 1 rules and World of Magic booklet, 2 do not shuffle on your turn cards, 2 spin down life counters, which those of us in the know like to refer to as 20-sided dice. The Spellsinger starter kits are going to be for 2 players ages 13 and up, and will carry an MSRP of $14.95 when they release on October 5th. Gotta say, that is not a bad deal for 2 60-card starter decks. You're really looking at about $7.50 each. So pretty cool. So I do know that it is a black-green deck, which I have never played. I've played green a lot. I used to play green-white quite a bit. Green-black's pretty interesting. And then I believe it is a red-white deck. So those are the 2 decks that will be included. When I was at Gen Con, there was a real push by Wizards of the Coast for Magic the Gathering because it is going to be celebrating, or it is now celebrating, its 25th anniversary. And they were handing out starter decks by color everywhere you went. So if you were at Gen Con, you could have easily scored a deck in all 5 colors absolutely free. Of course, Magic has lost some market share to some of those online CCGs, or I guess we have to call them TCGs, because I swear I think Wizards of the Coast owns the copyright on the term trading card game, or I'm sorry, collectible card game, so we have to refer to them as trading card games. But I'm a fan of Magic. I've been playing Magic since Beta. Really got into it. What came after Beta? Wasn't it Ultimate? I think it was Ultimate that came after that. I do not get a chance to play Magic as often as I once did, but I still actually have quite a few Magic cards. So pretty cool. This should be something for folks to look forward to in the future. I would hope that maybe it's popular enough that Wizards of the Coast actually offers a few more deck combinations in the same sort of format. Speaking of something else Wizards of the Coast related, or at least Dungeons and Dragons related, Goodman Games is going to release the second entry in the Dungeons and Dragons Original Adventures Reincarnated later this year, and I've got the dope. Goodman Games expands its partnership with Wizards of the Coast with the second release in the Original Adventures Reincarnated line. The first installment, Into the Borderlands, is already a bestseller, and this second release will transform a hit title into a hit product line. The Isle of Dread brings back the very first wilderness adventure ever published by Wizards of the Coast. This tutorial adventure by legendary designers Zeb Cook and Tom Moldvay was included in the D&D Expert set and has made an impression on millions of tabletop role players. That's no joke. Now, this classic module will be released in hardcover form, accompanied by a 5th edition conversion, as well as lots of expansion material to help you create a full campaign if you so desire. This is your chance to revisit an iconic adventure from your youth. Well, it's not from my youth. I was probably already in my 30s when that came out. And play it in the newest rules set with the next generation of adventurers. The first volume, Into the Borderlands, was the biggest release in the history of Goodman Games. The reception to it continues to amaze us, and we are thrilled beyond belief. And we are very proud to announce that the second volume in the series is, drumroll please, X1, The Isle of Dread. It will contain scans of the two original TSR publications of Isle of Dread, orange cover and blue cover editions, plus that 5e conversion, as well as interviews with original creators and other special features. We've also updated the mapping style of the 5e edition, so it will now feature illustrated hand-drawn maps that bring back memories of the original TSR style. Lead writer Chris Doyle and editor Tim Wadzinski returned to the project after doing such a great job on OAR1. Into the Borderlands is back in print and available, and Original Adventures Reincarnated 2 Isle of Dread is currently scheduled to release in November of this year. We'll be sure to keep you updated with news about it as it gets closer. As mentioned in the press release, the adventure is supposed to be slated for November, although I am seeing distributors indicating that it will be December. So it's very possible that you might be able to get it on the Goodman Games website in November, and then at your friendly local comic store or online retailers come December. Regardless, it is going to carry an MSRP of $49.99. Sweet! I have to point out, I would love to take a look at Into the Borderlands. It is not available as a PDF. I don't think Goodman Games plans on releasing it in a digital format. I believe they went to all this effort to put it in a cool hardcover edition for a reason. Possibly to keep the pirates at bay, I don't know. But sounds pretty cool. Sounds very cool. And Goodman Games does some pretty good old school Renaissance stuff. They've got their Dungeon Crawl Classics. They've got their, Mutant Crawl Classics. I was trying to remember the one that's kind of a little bit Gamma World-ish. It's a post-apocalyptic game. So very nice. That is something that if you are a fan of 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons and like to see how the old schoolers used to play, by all means, keep an eye out for the Isle of Dread. Moving right along with some more role-playing game news, Ulisses North America has released the first adventure collection for Warhammer 40k Wrath and Glory in PDF. And I've got the dope. The ocean world of Charybdian, that's how I'm going to pronounce it, seethes with discontent and a growing sense of danger. Charybdian's planetary governor has gone missing, and his counselors struggle to select a suitable heir. Meanwhile, mysterious murders, nightmares, and other dangers threaten to cast his planet into anarchy and despair. Hate when that happens. Dark Tides is an anthology of 5 linked adventures that bring your heroes face to face with the dangerous villains responsible for Charybdian's troubles. Charybdian, I don't know. Why can't these companies just give these planets like kind of, easy roll off the tongue kind of names? Can your heroes confront the vile forces spreading insanity and corruption? The fate of this planet is in your character's hands. They can survive what lurks beneath the dark tides. From the palace of the planetary governor to the seedy underhive, from streets plagued with horrific dreams to the depths of a terror-filled enforcer facility, these adventures test the limits of your character's abilities. While these adventures are linked together in an overall narrative, there is advice for each one to be run as a standalone module instead, should you prefer. The adventures in Dark Tides are ideal for campaigns of tier levels 2 through 4. The 130-page PDF is available right now from my friends at DriveThruRPG for $14.99. Very nice to see the first adventure book follow so closely on the heels of the release of the core book for Warhammer 40k Wrath and Glory. Sometimes when a new system comes out, you have to wait around to get some of the like adventures in that. And I'm trying to remember, because I'm in the midst of reading through Wrath and Glory for my review. I think there's an introductory adventure in it. I think. Now, there is the free RPG Day release, Blessings Unheralded, that is now on DriveThruRPG. It was free for a while. Now I think it's $5. And that is a kind of quick start as well as an introductory, real quick adventure. But glad to see this come out right away. As far as the actual physical book release, I do not know when that will be arriving. I would assume pretty shortly. Okay, moving along with some more role-playing game news. The latest sourcebook for Modiphius Entertainment's Conan Adventures in an Age Undreamed Of has arrived, and I've got the dope on Nameless Cults. I have known many gods. He who denies them is as blind as he who trusts them too deeply. I seek not beyond death. Nameless Cults is the Game Master's indispensable guide to the cosmology, gods, cults, and other worldly entities of Conan's world and time. This sourcebook addresses the many gods and godlike entities of the Hyborian Age, delving into their cults, their priesthoods, and the strange and terrible rites of their followers. Descriptions of major deities like stern and remorseless Kram, Bori, father god to the Hyborians, benevolent Mitra, sensual Ishtar, and the serpent god Set. Minor gods such as Asura, Durketa, and Bel, and regional cults such as that of Elkmenon, the cannibals of Zambula, and the immortality-seeking Zugite cult. Write-ups of potential foes and allies such as Thog the Mighty and the eminent Calanthes of Hanumar, enemy of Thoth Amon. Descriptions of sacred rites and tomes such as the Bone Rattle of Jebel Sag, the Fire Jewel of Hell, and the Tablets of Destiny. New cult member archetypes including the cultist, oracle, philosopher, and pilgrim, with stories, backgrounds, and other suggestions for role-playing the faithful. There's even horrific mind-bending lore about the Old Ones, Cthulhu, Yog-Sothoth, Azathoth, Nyarlathotep, and the other terrible deities of the Cthulhu mythos created by H.P. Lovecraft and integrated into Howard's Hyborian Age. There's stunning art from new and renowned Conan artists. It's been developed with leading Conan scholars. These are strange and terrible gods and cults of the Hyborian Age, just as Howard imagined them. Do want to point out this PDF will require the Robert E. Howard's Conan Adventures in an Age Undreamed Of core book in order to use. The 120-page source book is available in PDF right now, once again, from my friends over at DriveThruRPG for $14.99. For those out there who are thinking, oh, well, wait a second, Modiphius is just jumping on the whole Cthulhu mythos train and introducing Cthulhu and Nyarlathotep and so on to the Conan role-playing game, gotta remember, Robert E. Howard actually wrote, gosh, is it a dozen? It might even be more than a dozen mythos stories during his career. So he and H.P. Lovecraft were very, very good friends as far as corresponding through hundreds of letters back and forth. So, and of course, Lovecraft invited other authors to write within the mythos. So pretty sweet. Do want to mention this is available on DriveThruRPG as far as any of the DriveThruRPG titles I talk about. If you are going to visit the website, do me a quick favor, stop by thegaminggang.com, click on one of our banners for the drive-thru sites, and that way if you make a purchase, I get a small portion of that purchase. I keep telling people, it really, really adds up. So far this month, no joke, got about $108 in it just, 25 cents here, 50 cents here, 10 cents here. So as I mentioned, it really helps. And many months it actually pays for our hosting over at thegaminggang.com. I keep pointing out, we don't have GoDaddy $4 a month hosting. You can't have millions of visitors every year on GoDaddy hosting. So, all right, my final news piece. Tiny Battle Publishing is currently offering all 3 of the Invaders from Dimension X series as a discounted bundle. And here's the dope from Tiny Battle. Years in the making, a designing cast of thousands. Okay, well, maybe 2 or 3, but they did the work of thousands. Now, for the first time today, you can get all 3 of Herman Luttman's Invaders series of sci-fi tactical solitaire games for just $60. That's a savings of over 25%. Included in the bundle are Invaders from Dimension X, Space Vermin from Beyond, and Attack of the 50-Foot Colossi. I have played 2 of the 3 in the series. I have played and reviewed Invaders from Dimension X, as well as Attack of the 50-Foot Colossi. And they are loads of fun. These are excellent solitaire games. And especially if you like a lot of chaos, a lot of craziness going on, you will definitely dig these games. So if you want to save some dough, pick them up right now. They're the physical copies. They are not the print on demand through Wargame Vault. These are the physical copies from Tiny Battle Publishing. So snag all 3 for 20 bucks each. Can't beat that deal. All right, so that is it for the news today. I'm going to jump into my how to play and review of Tiny Epic Galaxies just a couple of moments. Did want to point out what is on deck for the Gaming Gang next week. I shouldn't say the Gaming Gang, for the Daily Dope. Duh. I need a sip. I've been talking way too long here. Without a break. Yikes. Hey, at least the scripted stuff is done, right? Can kind of ignore the teleprompter now. Anyway, so on Monday, I am going to unbox and take a look at Master of the Galaxy from Ares Games. It is a 4X science fiction game, and it's supposed to be very fast playing. So you're supposed to be able to finish up in about 90 minutes, if memory serves me correctly. It does look pretty cool. I am still trying to get my interview with Jim Long from Gen Con up. We do talk about Master of the Galaxy. So that is on Monday's show. On Tuesday's show, I will be taking a first look at Fist of Dragonstones, the Tavern Edition, from my pal Stephen Bonacor's Stronghold Games. It is number 10 in their great designer series. And this is kind of a retheming of the Bruno Feduti Fist of Dragonstones. So we will be taking a look at that. On Wednesday, it's going to be Wargame Wednesday. I'll be looking at Brawling Battleships from Lost Battalion Games. This is a World War I era naval combat game. It's a strategy card game. And I have mentioned a few times before, I'm a big naval game fan, and I had recently introduced my nephew Cameron and some of his friends to Fletcher Pratt's, so they loved it, so I'm really looking forward to checking this out. Then on Thursday, it's RPGs on Thursdays, so I will take a first look and do a deep dive into Outbreak Undead, the second edition, the Survivor's Guide, which is from Hunters Entertainment, as well as Renegade Game Studios. And my interview with Ivan Van Norman and Chris De La Rosa is up, so you can actually check that out. They do talk about this quite a bit. And then on Friday, we're going to take a look at another Starling Games release. Just came out. It was a Gen Con release. I don't know when this is going to be arriving in stores. I will check before I do the unboxing. But it is the collector's edition of Archmage. It's a fantasy game. It is supposed to be a pretty meaty strategy game as well. In fact, if I remember correctly, I believe Brenna Noonan in our interview, which is also up about Starling Games, talks about this is kind of their heaviest game that they've done to date. So that will be next Friday. So lots cooking, a lot of fun on the horizon. All right, so I know people are checking out the show so they can see how to play Tiny Epic Galaxies, as well as find out what my thoughts are on the game. So Tiny Epic Galaxies is for 1 to 4, I should say 1 to 5 players. I'm so used to a lot of the Tiny Epic line being for 1 to 4 players. It is for 1 to 5 players, ages 14 and up. I will mention why it's for ages 14 and up in just a moment. And it plays in around 30 to 60 minutes. It is from my friends over at Gamelyn Games and designed by Scott Alms, with artwork provided by William Bricker and Benjamin Schulman. Tiny Epic Galaxies has been out for a while. It was released in 2016, so you can get it. You can get your hands on it immediately. And it does carry an MSRP of $30. And I apologize, speaking of black cats, I have like a cat hair that's kind of just like blowing around my face. Kind of on my nose, sort of. So let me refill a little more diet soda here. And I do apologize, I still have that little bit of con crud. Still have it's not so bad sinus-wise as far as, you know, the sinuses running and stuff like that. But now it is kind of gotten into my chest, so that's why my voice is kind of wheezy, and I will probably cough a couple of times. But anyway, let's move on over to the other camera, because I have actually set up Tiny Epic Galaxies for a 3-player game. So the first thing, Tiny Epic Galaxies is a science fiction game. So what you're looking to do is you're looking to try to colonize planets while you're also advancing your own civilization. So of course, the name of the game is scoring victory points. Victory points are very, very important for you to be able to win the game. From my experience, and I have played this quite a few times now, I had an opportunity to play it for the first time at this year's Origins Game Fair with my best friend Elliot Miller over at voiceofe.com, and Michael Coe over at Gamelyn was kind enough to give Elliot a review copy of this. So we played it once, really liked. No, actually we played it twice and actually liked it. And when I saw Michael over at Gen Con, I asked him if it was possible for myself to get a review copy, because even though Elliot and I are best friends, and Elliot and I try to game together as often as we can, normally we're lucky if we can get together and play games once a month. Lately it's been even longer between our game sessions. So of course the gaming gang consists of myself and my brother and my nephew and my niece and my nephew's high school friends and things like that. So I pointed out to Michael that, hey, I'd love to review it because it's a lot of fun. I really like this game. And of course, I couldn't snag the copy from Elliot to do the review because we don't live near each other. So anyway, Michael was very, very kind to give me a copy of Tiny Epic Galaxies at Gen Con, which I then proceeded to play Tiny Epic Galaxies with my brother Greg and my nephew Cameron right there at Gen Con. So I know, and people were kind of looking at me like, seriously, that game's been out for quite a while. Aren't you gonna like play some new stuff? It's kind of like, well, no, I can't play new stuff simply because I like to do unboxings and things like that. So we're gonna kind of take a look. I'm gonna kind of take a little tour through here. We've got the rule book for Tiny Epic Galaxies. It is pretty short. It is really well presented, and lots of examples of play, as well as walking you through the game itself. I mean, crystal clear. Read through these rules and understood them right off the bat. So all in all, it's about 8 pages of rules, but not a ton that you have to really, really delve into. So each of the players are going to have their own galaxy mats, and I am going to show off the galaxy mat here. and kind of explain what each of these things are. Let's make sure we've got this kind of focused here. So this track here, this track that runs kind of in almost like a semicircle here, that's where you're going to track your energy as well as your culture. So they are both used to do different things. They're your two forms of currency. So you've got the culture as well as energy, and a lot of times you can spend, one or the other or both, depending on what you're trying to do. Then we also have along here, this is going to show you victory points. So let's get a little closer in there. So we see the victory points. So in this area here, this is where you're going to track the advancement of your civilization. So if you read across, so we see this is the civilization, these are your rockets, and these are your victory points. So here at the starting point for your civilization, you're going to see that you'll have 2 rockets available to you. And, oh, I'm sorry, this is the number of dice you have. My apologies. This is where you start getting victory points. So you're going to have your civilization level, your number of ships available to you, and the number of dice you're going to roll on your turn. And then if you notice, as you proceed to expand and advance your civilization, you're going to actually unlock additional rockets. You're going to start getting more dice to roll, and you're also going to score more victory points. As I mentioned, the name of the game is Victory Points. Here you're going to see this little energy symbol, and what this energy symbol indicates is if you actually have rockets on your galaxy mat, which you start off with, and as you colonize planets, or if somebody colonizes a planet that you're either on or orbiting, you're going to have your rockets go back to your galaxy mat. So this is one of the ways that when you roll a die that shows energy, you'll actually score energy. Then we see here, down in this section here, it's going to show it's the colony die face, and it's going to tell you you can upgrade your empire by spending either energy or culture. And the cost to advance is the number up here. So if, say for an example, if you're a 2 and you want to advance to a 3, then you will need to spend either 3 energy or 3 culture. Not a combination of both, but I do want to point out that the various planets have special abilities, and the special abilities can overwrite that. There is a planet that allows you, as a special ability, to be able to actually spend a combination of both energy and culture in order to advance your civilization. So we've got 5 of these. They are dual-sided. So we actually have, there's a solitaire game that you can play as well. There are solitaire rules if you want to play solo. So we've got these different tokens. And this is the reason why the game is for ages 14 and up. This is not an extremely difficult game to learn how to play. This is not a difficult game to wrap your head around, but it does have these small items here, which, of course, for a small child is a choking danger, right? So we've got the rockets. So each of the players will have 4 rockets, although they will unlock rockets as their civilization grows, as they advance their civilization. We do have this little hexagonal token here. This is where you're going to mark your civilization level. We've got this cylinder here, which shows the culture symbol, and that is how you track your culture on your galaxy mat. And then we have a cube that shows an energy marker. So once again, that's how you would actually track your energy. So as I mentioned, I have this set up as a 3-player game, and I will show you. Hopefully I don't drop these all over the place. So this is how your mat will be set up to begin the game. You're going to start off with 2 rockets on your little galaxy map there. You're going to have 1 culture, 2 energy. You're going to be at the starting point here for your civilization. And then you're also going to place the 2 additional rockets that you have that you can unlock as you advance your civilization. So, we also have planets that you're going to look to colonize and to take advantage of their special abilities. So when you start the game, you're going to set up the game with 2 more planets than there are players. So as a 3-player game like this, there will be 5 planets at all times available for landing on them as well as colonizing them. So I'm going to take planet off the top here. And I'm going to show you what this planet card shows. So first off, this is going to show that if you have a rocket either on the planet or orbiting the planet in order to colonize this, if you roll on your dice, if you roll a culture symbol, you will gain culture. So you gain culture, you gain 1 culture for each rocket that is either on or happens to be in orbit around a planet if you have that die face. Then we also have down here, we're showing this is diplomacy. So this is a diplomacy planet. So in order to colonize this planet, you will actually have to advance across this track, and you will use diplomacy die faces to do so. When you end up trying to colonize a planet, you will actually lay your rocket down here. That is the starting position. If we take a closer look towards the bottom, we're going to see that this planet has a special ability, and it is convert any number of energy into culture. That is the special ability of this planet. And then down here in the lower right corner, that is the number of victory points this planet happens to be worth. So we've got culture planets, we have diplomacy planets, and we have economic planets. So this is the economy symbol here. So this shows that this planet, to advance your colonizing action, you need to have die faces with the economy symbol. So that's just to give you kind of an example here. Now let's look at the dice. So we have various dice. We have 7 dice. So you're going to start off with 4 dice that you're going to roll. And then as your civilization advances, you'll unlock more dice to be able to roll. So you can at most be rolling 7 dice during your turn. So this first die face is to move a ship. You can use this die and move a ship either from your galaxy mat to a planet, or if you are on the surface of a planet, if you've landed on it and you're not colonizing it, you can move from one planet to another planet. So that is the move. Then we have the energy. So the energy face allows you to gain energy based on, are you on a card that has energy? Are you on the planet or orbiting the planet that shows this energy symbol here? If so, you gain 1 point of energy for each ship. Now, something else that's important is, let me lift this back up a little bit again. You notice here on your galaxy mat, it shows the little energy symbol. So as an example, if a player on their turn had their rockets on this galaxy mat and they happen to have that die, they would score 2 points of energy. So that sometimes slips people's minds. So rolling energy or rolling, let's go get culture, here we go. Rolling a culture face does not automatically gain you energy or culture. You must be on or orbiting a planet with that symbol. And I'll explain that because I'm gonna play a turn through here to kind of give people an idea. Then we have the economy symbol. So with every one of these, if you are actually colonizing a planet that has, as an example, the economy symbol, you'll be able to advance for every one of these die faces here. And then we have the diplomacy. Got the diplomacy symbol. So, as an example here, for every one of the diplomacy faces, you would be able to advance your colonization on this planet because it takes diplomacy. Then we also have the colony face. So with the colony face, when you don't have any colonies, if you have not colonized any planets, you can actually advance your civilization if you have enough energy or culture to do so. You can only advance your civilization by using this die face here. So as I mentioned, there are 7 dice. These are really nicely done. These are cut die. They are not stickers. They are not painted on. So these will last you a good long time. So I should also point out that the bottom of the box has an FAQ for some of the planets. So it kind of clarifies what some of these special actions, these special abilities on the planets allow you to do. I'm going to put this back over here because I'm kind of blocking out a little bit of glare because there is a little bit of a sheen to these cards, as you can see, just like that. But really nice cardstock. Everything, all the components, everything about Tiny Epic Galaxies is top-notch. It's very, very cool. Definitely kudos. I mean, especially for a game that's got an MSRP of $30, which, of course, everybody knows you're going to be able to pick it up for less than that online. Hey, my buddy Louie from Arizona is chiming in. So I'm wondering if this is Big Louie or Little Louie. So, hey there, Louie. All right, so this is your activation bay. This is kind of like your die map that you can use. And as you can see right here, it tells you what each of these die faces actually do. One thing I should also point out too is there is a converter area here. You can always at any time take 2 of your dice, regardless of what die facing they have, and take 2 dice, put them there, and you take a 3rd die and put it on whatever die face you want. So, hey, it's Little Louie. Good deal. So, if because it's a die game, right? You're rolling dice. So some people are going to say, "Oh, well, sometimes I get rolls I can't do anything with." Well, the reality is, yeah, you can, because you can always spend a couple of dice and make sure that you get a die that you really, really need. But there are other things that you can do too. You can actually spend energy to re-roll dice, and I will get to that when we actually start looking at the gameplay of Tiny Epic Galaxies. So we also have these secret mission cards. So what we do is each player is going to get a couple of secret mission cards. They get to look at them, and they get to decide, okay, which one of these secret missions do I want? And you're going to keep that, and you're going to keep them face down. And then the cards that you don't use just get discarded. So you can have stuff where it's have the fewest number of planets, or finish the game and have the most culture out of anybody, or most energy out of anybody. And you'll gain bonus victory points for doing so. So just let's just toss each one. Each of these players is gonna get a secret mission. So there we go. All right. So to begin the game, you'll have your first player, and we'll say green here is gonna be our first player. We're gonna zoom in a little bit. I don't want to zoom in too far. That should be pretty good. I just want to make sure that people can actually kind of see what the cards are. So the top of the box is kind of your dice tray. And I have to be honest, I don't know what it is with the people I play games with, but practically none of them, outside of Elliot, can actually roll dice and not send them flying off the table. I don't know why. I have no idea. I mean, I hate to see them playing craps in Vegas, to be honest. I just watch them flying all over. So we have this nice dice tray here. So we'll say, let's say the green player is the first player. They're going to roll their dice. So they've got a move ship, they've got a diplomacy, and a culture. So taking a look to see what we may have here, this is a pretty easy planet to get. So this planet will score, once it's colonized, it'll score 1 victory point. The special ability it has is if you are followed on this turn, acquire 1 culture per follow. So let's say that we've got our green player says, okay, I know what I'm going to do. And you can play these dice in the order you want to play the dice. So the green player says, okay, so I'm going to move my ship. And then you just put your die right on the activation bay. So they're going to move their ship from the galaxy mat to this planet here. And if they want to try to colonize it, they're going to lay the rocket down on its side, just like so. Zoom in a little more. So they're going to be able to lay it down just like so. So they've got their first die. Now, one of the cool things that I really like about Tiny Epic Galaxies that I think some players don't take advantage of enough is the ability to follow another player and take the same action as that die they just played. So a couple of the gang weren't really understanding that concept of following. Plus, after you take your action, you want to give everybody a second. So if they want to follow you, they can follow you. It will cost them 1 culture to do so. So for an example, we may have, okay, well, there's a move ship. Well, the blue player says, yeah, I want to move a ship. And they decide, okay, they're going to move their ship and they're going to go and try to colonize this planet here. So they had to spend 1 culture, dropping them down to 0 culture. And the red player says, hey, you know what? I like that. I'm going to do that too. They spend their 1, and let's say they decide they want to colonize that planet here. Easy peasy. So everybody ends up spending the culture in order to follow. Like I said, I can't tell you how many times I've explained this follow action to other players and they kind of ignore it. Now, granted, of course, if you have no culture, or if you're kind of like trying to stockpile culture, I get it. I understand not using the follow action, but it really helps speed up the game as well as ramp the game up early on. If you're not using the follow actions, then the game is going to take longer to play. And I'll tell you, in my opinion, if you don't know how to follow, or if you never follow somebody's actions, you're never going to win this game. All right, so it's still the green player's turn, even though everyone else has decided, hey, I'm spending culture. I'm getting out in this galaxy too, baby. So we've got the culture die face. As you remember, I mentioned that if you are on or orbiting a planet with either culture or energy, if you have this, you get to score it. So boom, there we go. Green player says, yeah, I'm going to play that culture, and they are going to gain an additional culture. So now they're up to 2 culture here. Then they say, okay, I'm going to play this diplomacy die face, and you just move along the track because it's a diplomacy planet. Going to move it along that track. Wow, they've almost colonized it. Well, guess what? That was the last die they had here too. So they play their last diplomacy, and boom, now they have colonized the planet. This rocket will go back to their galaxy mat, And now they will actually claim this planet. So let's zoom back out a little bit. So what you do is you actually will take the ships that you've, or I should say planets that you've colonized, and you'll slide them under your mat. So you still have the like special abilities showing. Because before, the only thing you could do on a colony die face, as an example, would have been to advance your civilization. Now, they get an option because they've colonized a planet. So they could either upgrade their empire, or they could play, if they're followed on this turn, acquire one culture per follow. Once a planet has been colonized, you're going to just simply replace it with a new planet. So that was the green player's turn. So now we go to the blue player. I don't know why I'm grabbing that. I want this box. So they get to roll their 4 dice. And let's see what we've got. We've got a ship move, we've got a colony, we've got diplomacy, and we've got energy. So the blue player is floating around an energy planet, and they also still have the energy symbol with one ship on their mat. So they might say, hey, I'm going to play an energy. I'm going to play that energy die. Well, boom, they just earned 2 energy. One for the planet that they're trying to colonize, which has an energy symbol, and one for the ship that's on their mat. So then they've also got a diplomacy. So they'll say, okay, but it's like, oh, wait a second, hold on. Green player says, I want to follow this die. I want energy too. So they spend their 1 culture and they would gain 2 energy because they have 2 ships that are sitting here on their mat. Red player has no culture, so the red player couldn't do anything. So, not, you know, whatever. Maybe they wanted to, maybe they want to get the energy, maybe they don't. But unfortunately, they can't spend culture, so they can't follow on that turn. So everybody's like, oh, okay, all right, back to blue player. Now he decides, oh, I'm going to play a diplomacy, and I am going to move my rocket here. And everybody else is like, okay, that's fine. Then they decide, okay, I'm going to play my move ship. So they're going to move their blue ship. And they decide, okay, I'm going to land on this planet. As opposed to trying to colonize this planet, they land on this planet. And when you land on a planet, you get to take advantage of the special ability. So the special ability here is advance a ship 1. So when they say advance a ship 1, they mean on a colony track. So they can move their blue ship closer to colonizing this planet here. Then they have the colony die face. Oh, that's a little out of focus there. They got the colony die face. So what they could decide to do is play that, zoom back out, and decide, hey, you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to spend 2 energy. I am going to advance my culture to 2. Which now, when the blue player, when it's their turn again, they're going to have 5 dice they're going to roll, and they have 1 victory point. So what you should do as you play, and you don't really have to do it early on. You're supposed to, but you don't have to do it early on, is you're supposed to say how many victory points you have. Because you're going to play until somebody gets 21 victory points, and then that triggers the end of the game. Once someone has 21 victory points, everyone's going to get a final turn, including the person who triggered that end game, which some folks were like, what? Really? How come you get an extra turn? Just saying, that's how it works. I don't have that big an issue with it. All right, so the blue player would have finished their turn, although, let's say with this colony here, The green player says, hey, I want to follow. They spend their 1 culture, they spend their 2 energy, and now they get to advance their civilization as well. As I mentioned before, if you don't pay attention to following other players, you are never going to win this game. Plus, the other thing that following allows you to do is you don't have a lot of downtime. It keeps everybody engaged in the game. Because if you've got the culture to spend, then you're sitting there going, oh, wait, now, hold on there a minute, Babalooey. I'm going to move my ship too. Or, oh, I want to get energy. Or, I want to, advance my colonization as well. So that's something I really, really like about this design. And it's one of the ways that the game does not bog down. And with 3 players, once you know how to play, and it's super easy to learn, you can knock out a game in about a half hour. That's what we've found. Once you know what you're doing, you can bang it out in about a half hour. All right, so let's... Why do I keep taking that box top, dummy? Dummy. All right, wet my whistle here a little bit. Okay, so we would now move on to the red player. And the red player would roll their dice. All right, let's see what we've got here. We've got a culture, we've got a colonization, and we've got a couple of... Let's zoom back in a little bit. And a couple of diplomacies. So, red player is actually orbiting a cultured planet. So they have no culture. They would probably want to spend that die. Yeah, they want some culture. Excuse me, there we go. Then we've got a colony, which if they wanted to spend all their energy, yeah, they could to move their civilization up. And then there's 2 diplomacy, but the thing is, they're not actually orbiting a diplomacy planet. They're orbiting a economy planet. So what they might want to do is they might want to re-roll their dice. So you get a free re-roll. You can re-roll any or all of your dice at no cost each turn. So the red player says, yeah, I'm going to do that. And they basically roll about what they had before. So they've got the colony, they've got another culture. They figure, well, that culture is important. Maybe they've got a secret mission where it says, if they finish up with the most culture, that they get those extra victory points. Hey, look, it's Drew. Drew is popping in. It's an especially good wait in line at a con for the doors to open game, or waiting for food at the really slow restaurant. Yeah, I really like this game. I like this game a lot, and I'll explain why in my closing thoughts. So let's say, okay, so they decide, yeah, I want to get another culture. Well, now they've got the colony die and a diplomacy die. That diplomacy die isn't going to do anything for them. What you can do is you can actually spend energy in order to re-roll your dice. Once you've done your free re-roll, if you spend 1 point in energy, you can then re-roll any of your dice, as many as you want. So red player says, yeah, I really want to do that. I really want to re-roll my dice. And they get a couple of move ships. So what they could do now is they could look around and say, okay, so is there a planet that I want to go and actually try to colonize? Or is there something that if I land on a ship, so it says, okay, so we've got one move ship, move one of your ships to another colony track at an equal level, spend 2 culture to advance 2 diplomacy, advance a ship 1, which you couldn't land because you can only have one ship on each spot. Something I should point out, you can only have 1 rocket colonizing a planet. You can only have 1 rocket on the planet's surface. You can't do something like that. So let's say, yeah, all right. So go to this planet here. That's the move. And then they have one left. And now, hey, other players could have said, hey, I want to move. Or, hey, I want to get that culture. I want to do these other things. But the green player and the blue player do not have any culture that they could have spent to follow. So they land their red rocket on this, and it says, set one inactive die to a face of your choice. So a player says, okay, I'm going to change it to the economy symbol, and that's going to move me closer along to colonizing the planet. That is, in its essence, how the game plays. That's how Tiny Epic Galaxies plays. What eventually happens is you will be advancing your civilizations. You'll be unlocking more rockets to send out. You'll be unlocking more dice to roll. So as you have more rockets available to you, you're going to see things will start to the pace will pick up. So as I mentioned before, when you're following, especially early in the game, it keeps you engaged in the game, but it also helps to speed the process of the game. And if you're not following, the game will, I mean, even if you don't follow it, the game is still going to be loads of fun. It just tends to make the game play a little bit longer. And more importantly, I'm sorry, I just don't see people winning this game if they don't follow on occasion. It was funny. We would play, and there'd be somebody where they'd be maxed out at 7 on their culture and their energy, which is as high as you can go. And they weren't spending energy, they weren't spending culture, and it's like, well, what's the point of having this? The point is to spend this stuff to advance your culture, to get these colonies. All right, so once someone has reached 21 victory points, then what you're going to do is you are going to allow everyone else, including the person who triggered the end game, which can happen on someone else's turn. So for an example, somebody could follow somebody, colonize their final planet. They get the planet. Now they're at 21 victory points, and they say, okay, I've got 21 victory points or more. Then the person whose turn it was is going to finish their turn, and you are still going to allow everybody, including that person, one last round. Once that's happened, you're going to total up all your victory points from your colonized planets. So as an example, we'll just say this player had these planets. So you're going to sit there, you're going to tally up your victory points from these planets. You're going to tally up your victory points from your civilization level. So if you're at level 6, that's worth 8 victory points. I'm telling you, those victory points come in handy. And then, once everybody's totaled those up, then you're going to reveal your secret mission. And I'll tell you right now, Tiny Epic Galaxies plays tight. It does play very closely. And so, unless somebody's just completely screwing the pooch, then no, they're not going to be anywhere near winning. But usually the game plays pretty tight, and these secret missions, if you're able to actually pull off your secret mission, these 2 or 3 victory points can really mean the difference between victory and defeat. I have seen it many times. In fact, the first time I broke this out when we were at Gen Con with Greg and Cameron, my brother Greg wasn't even paying that close attention when I was explaining the rules. He almost won. The only reason why he didn't win is because I actually was able to pull off my secret mission, and I was able to win by a single victory point. So that's another aspect of the game that I really like as well, is you normally won't see somebody just run away with this game. It's pretty tight all the way through. So that is pretty much how you play Tiny Epic Galaxies. And even with 5 players, the game doesn't last that long. I know it says 30 to 60 minutes. Even with a full complement of 5 players, I think we may have gone, once everybody knew how to play, which, like I said, it's not very difficult to learn how to play this. 45 minutes, maybe? I mean, everybody was just like, boom, rolling their dice. Okay, doing it. Nah, I'm going to re-roll these. Bum, 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 bum. I want to follow you. Blah, blah, blah. So about 45 minutes is pretty much for even a 5-player game. So what do I think of Tiny Epic Galaxies? I like it. I like it a lot. I like that you've got different options available to you. Are you going to try to colonize planets? Because there are cards, there are planets that allow you to like push people back on their colonization tracks. There's planets where you can advance everybody else, or you can advance another ship 1 on their track and advance yours 2. Lots and lots of different wrinkles to the planets. So I like the fact that there's always a lot of options available to you. That do I boost my my civilization level? Do I advance my civilization? Do I go and I colonize planets? You really got to colonize planets, but you want to start unlocking more ships, more dice, so you really want to focus on advancing your civilization. You're always looking for more energy and more culture. So it's a game that you have all these different options. It's a game also where, yes, you're rolling dice, there's luck involved, but you can mitigate the luck by playing cleverly. You saw I played the first round just rolling the 4 dice, and as an example, mainly, I kind of re-rolled the dice for the red player, even though those 2 dice really wouldn't have helped them much. But even just the first rounds for the green and the blue player, first roll of the dice, there was stuff that could be done. In fact, the one player, it was like, boom, I already colonized this little planet and put it in my, it's now part of my empire, all in 1 round. So I like how it moves quickly. I like how the various planets have all these different options to them. I like how when you colonize those planets, you actually earn the ability to utilize that special effect, that special ability of the planet, if you happen to use a colony die face. So loads and loads that I really like. I think the components are excellent. I think it keeps everybody engaged. The solitaire game is okay, but that's not the selling point of this. It's really not the selling point for any of the Tiny Epic games that have solitaire play in them. It's just there as an extra bonus. The only thing that I would think some players might not like is that there can get to be a little take that in the game, moving people back off of their, colonizing planets, back on the track and things like that. There's not a ton of it. It's not really in your face. It's not like you can blow up other people's rockets or steal their colonies or anything like that. But all in all, on a scale of 1 to 10, I give Tiny Epic Galaxies an extremely enthusiastic 9.7. That's right, it is a 9.7. Only reason it's not getting the 10 is I found the solitaire to be all right. But the rest of it, thought it's fantastic. It is a blast to play. I am actually going over to keep an eye on my niece and nephew tonight. We might actually have some of Cameron's friends come over, and I guarantee you, we're going to be playing a game of Tiny Epic Galaxies. It is going to be one of these games that I have to keep in my car almost at all times. So really, really dig it. And if you do not own it, you really owe it to yourself to have it as a part of your collection. All right, so that is it for today's show. Drew says, jerkiest thing you can do is make people go backwards on the track when you're trying to settle a planet. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah, that's really the only take that. And it's not that big a deal. I mean, it's really not. It's not that big a deal. Anyway, so that's it for today's show. On Monday's show, I will be unboxing and taking a look at Master of the Galaxy from Ares Games. Keep talking about how this looks pretty cool, and I am waiting to bust this open so I can actually get it to the table and play. So that will be on Monday's show. So, once again, I am Jeff McAleer. I will be back on Monday, and have a great weekend. Have a very safe weekend. Drew and Louie, thanks for popping in and chiming in on chat. And, of course, for everybody catching the show, as always, thank you very much for watching. Thanks again for watching The Daily Dope, presented by The Gaming Gang. If you like this episode, be sure to give it a quick thumbs up. And if you dig the channel, please subscribe. If you'd like to check out our previous episode, click right here. And if you want to check out a somewhat randomly selected episode, give a click right down here. It'll be like opening a box of Cracker Jacks. You just don't know what you'll get. Once again, thanks for watching, and I'm Jeff McAleer.